Well, yeah, I tell you what, you give us an hour and we'll figure out technology, huh? You can, can you see me?
I can see you. Looks like you're lying on the bed.
Yeah. Well, this is my workspace. This is, you look comfortable. You look like you're sitting back in a nice comfy chair.
Yeah. How much can you see of me? You can see the
Um,
shirt?
yeah, I can see this shirt. It's a great shirt. I wore this shirt yesterday. That's a very funny joke. I wonder what kind of comedian would put those shirts out. Thank you for
I'll
doing this.
provide you with information. You can send people the link.
Yeah. Well, this is a whole new world for both of us. It's embarrassing to me because I feel like as your son, I should be uh I should know stuff. I should know how to email and I should know how to create a Zoom meeting, but this was embarrassing. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff.
But you have a resource in Kate.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I guess mom is not as helpful when it comes to tech support.
Not, yeah, a little, not recently, no.
It's funny. Kate gets very frustrated with me because I didn't realize like she works fast and she'll sit over me and want me to be looking something up or Google something on the computer and she could feel her tension just rising as I slowly type into the keyboard and I said I think you would fire me by noon of my first day if I worked at your company and she said by 10 a.m.
Yeah.
They work quick. They move quickly. These younger people. I don't know what to say. Anyway, how are you? Greetings from Somerville. This is a very exciting day for me. This is my podcast, and my dad is perhaps my all time. This is exciting. My favorite guest ever, and you resisted. You keep saying I have nothing to say. Why would I be a guest? You have nothing interesting to add, and on the contrary. I and everyone who knows you thinks you're the most fun, fascinating person in the world.
Well, I'm not, and now we've been stuck in the house. Mom was saying this morning about 8 weeks now. So have no outside world experience.
How is it going over there? How is being hunkered down in Jersey?
Every day, Mom listens to the governor, and it's always depressing. Today, I think the number of new admissions was something like 1,400.
Hey,
And
yikes.
from the end of last week was 1,700. So, we're going down.
Okay, well that's about yeah. Jersey's been having a tough time, hasn't it? I mean, those numbers have been tough.
I don't understand why, but yeah, we are.
Yeah. I know they just extended there till whatever it is, June. But New York, I see just today, I think they're going to honor this Friday, the 15th, to slowly start reopening New York.
Yeah, yeah. New York is going to open before New Jersey.
Well, it's incredible. I mean, doesn't necessarily mean New York City, but it does New York State. Tell me, Pops, you've lived through some things over the years. I mean, is this the craziest thing that you've ever lived through, or?
No, that's an interesting question. Um, yeah, it certainly is unusual.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the other day, and I wish he had, talked more. My father was born in 1909, so
Wow.
he lived through the pandemic in 1918,
The first one, yeah. Yeah.
and
Well, probably not the first one, but yeah.
yeah, and but never, never mentioned it. We never talked about it. He was a young kid, not even a teenager, but I'm sure he had some stories and some memories from that. But and there was nothing they could do. Interestingly, if you look back, they tried to isolate. They tried to stay home. They didn't have all the technology and all the science that we have today, but they were actually doing the right things
Is that right?
with what they had. Yeah, they didn't have the any vaccinations or anything on the way. They just had to let it take its course. But they tried to, avoid contact with other people.
And what was that? I remember I've seen it in the news now. 1918 pandemic. What was it? A virus? What was going around?
Yeah, it was a virus, and I don't know where it started though.
Okay.
But it went. I mean, it went around the world. So it was, and which was really unusual and bad because people didn't travel in those days like they do now. So it
Right.
took a long time, slowly moving virus rather than a quick one like we had.
Yeah, like, yeah, I guess so, with all the airplanes and everything, people coming in and out of New York, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, your dad, I mean, gosh, I don't remember how old I was when your dad passed away, but he was never a chatty fellow, right?
No, not at all. No.
Yeah.
And he had a brother um, who lived here in the States also and came over, I think came over to, America maybe a year or two after my father. And I've talked to my cousin recently, and his father was even less chatty than mine.
Is that right?
Yeah,
That's hard to do.
yeah. So the two of us, yeah. Well, my cousin Bill said, he said he would have great times with his dad. He said his dad liked to sit on the porch, and he would go sit next to him. They'd sit there for 3 or 4 hours and never say a word, and then he would get up and leave.
Is that true?
Yeah. His father said, "Where are you going?"
Are we done here? Oh, that is funny. And
Yeah,
whereas your
it was
mom,
very comfortable. He said it was very comfortable sitting there.
well, there is a beauty in that. I always, sometimes you're in a restaurant and you see a couple, an older couple together and they never speak over the meal. And it's a conversation I used to have with girlfriends, if I was out to dinner, I'd always wonder, are they okay? Are they comfortable and they don't need to speak to each other? They've been together for so long, it's okay. Or are they just out of things to say? Um, and I never know. Do you have an opinion on that?
No, I don't. Still over. I still can't get over the going to restaurants and seeing families or couples sitting there, and just everybody looking at their iPhone and
Ah,
not talking. I think,
right.
what's the sense of that?
Yeah, yeah. It's a crazy thing. I work with, I've worked on some cruise ships and I see these younger kids, these dancers and singers who are just out of college, they're young 20s. And I'll never forget it. We were in Maui and we went to a midnight bonfire on the beach in Maui. And one of the coolest things you can even think of, and there was about 25, mostly these younger performers, and they literally all just had the glow of their phones up on their faces, and it's midnight on the beach in Maui, and I'm looking around going, this is unbelievable. I've never seen or experienced anything like this. And they were all just selfies and not even talking to each other. It's a different generation.
I don't understand it, but
I don't either.
on the other side, though, of that, guess everything goes in extremes. But I think a lot of times when we look through things in the house, which we've been doing for the last month and a half, and you come across pictures, and I have a hard time, finding a picture of you when you were a kid. And nowadays, I admire the fact that you can go onto Facebook and you can actually see kids growing up every day. It's
Yeah.
like there's so many pictures of them. I think when the parents are older and the kids are older, it'd be wonderful to have so many pictures.
It's like life in real time. You're right. I
Yeah.
I always, the first time, it was must have been 8 years ago, whatever the Olympics was. It was the Winter Olympics of, whatever, a few years ago. And I remember the first time I ever saw a commercial, and they showed the now Olympic skier, or the now Olympic whoever, their first skate, their first time. And I said, oh my gosh, that's technology. Obviously when I was a kid, when you were a kid, we didn't have the ability to videotape our first anything. And now, yeah, this commercial was this first skier's first time on skis. And yeah, what a neat thing.
Yeah, it is. Uh, I'm sure it is. But as you said earlier, you do miss things. When you're concentrating on taking the pictures, you're missing the live action yourself.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
then you have to look at the picture. Oh wow, yeah, I took.
Yeah. Well, remember we went to the Yankee game and 2 years ago, and remember we just, looking at so many people videotape. I guess it was more than that, because I remember Jeter. So 4 or 5 years ago, but so many people with their phones filming the game, and you and I were sitting there watching the game, enjoying the game, and so many people were just filming Jeter at bat, and we're going, he's right there, put down the phone.
Yeah, you can buy a video.
Exactly. You're at the game. Well, so I asked about your dad, but your mom, again, also passed when I was young, but it was always my all-time favorite person. Your mom, she used to give me $1. Did you ever know that every time that we would leave her house, she would sneak $1 into my hand and
Oh,
say,
really?
"Yep, yep." She always gave me $1, and I thought I was a millionaire. I thought I was rich, and she always made pistachio pudding for me, and that was my favorite thing about your mom. But she was more not talkative, right? But your mom was they both from Ireland, right?
Right. Yeah, she wasn't talkative either. No.
But so that's funny because the Irish, the gift of the gab and the whole thing. You
I
talk,
know. It skipped a generation, really.
they did, yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I have a couple of questions here. I told my social media friends that I was going to be chatting with you today, and I have a few questions. I said, "Does anyone want to ask my dad anything?" And you probably don't know this, but everybody loves you. I don't. You have a lot of fans out there.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I should have asked my social media fans if they had any questions.
Well, let me get to the first question here. Heidi wants to know, what was life like with Michael as your kid?
Who wants to know that?
Heidi is one of my Facebook friends.
Oh, Heidi. What was
Yeah,
life
you
like?
don't know Heidi. Some of these people you do know, but you don't know her.
No, I don't know Heidi. No. Um, and what was life like when?
With Michael as your kid. Yeah,
Uh,
what was it like to raise me? What was it like to? What was I
it was
like?
expensive to raise you. And, it just seemed like for forever, every Saturday morning, you would come to us and give us a bill. You would tell us how much money we owed you, and for what, I have no idea.
I remember this
Do you? Yeah,
too. I had a bill for you guys every week, didn't I?
you did. You gave us a bill every week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I do remember that. How
yeah.
did you owe me money? You were raising me.
I still baffles Mom and I. I have, I have no idea. But I'm sure somewhere down the line, you probably have a new bill, or the old ones that aren't paid with interest on them.
Oh, well, God, if you ever presented me with a bill for what I cost, I'd be in big trouble.
Yeah. No, but you'd have to ask Mom, or you were very easy. You were an easy kid to raise. You were obedient. You did what you were supposed to do, and then you started to grow up a little bit.
And
And
are
I,
you suggesting that it wasn't as easy?
well, yeah, I don't know how old you were, but maybe you were in first or second grade, and all your friends used to play on the front lawn.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if you played baseball or soccer. Do you remember what you played
And the
on the
front
front?
lawn?
Yeah, it was a field, and I can't remember.
Probably both, right?
I guess so. Um, but I remember coming home from work one day, and you were out there with all your friends, and you were playing something, and I thought you were cheating.
Yes.
You remember?
I remember Mom telling this story, but
Oh, really?
you refreshed my memory, though.
Well, I thought you did something, like maybe a little bit not right. So, I called you over to the side, and I said, I told you, I said, Michael, I don't think you should be doing that. And you said, get out of here, you little pervert. And just leave us alone.
I called you, I called you a pervert, and with
A
a
pervert.
B, a
A
pervert with a
pervert with a
B.
B. Yes.
I was a very competitive child, and
You were very competitive. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't love the fact that it sounds like I would cheat to win, but it's I
Can't say you were really cheating, but it was something that caught my eye. Yeah.
I remember that. I remember. I don't remember it happening, but I remember mom telling that story and calling. I apologize for that. Sorry, Dad.
Was waiting for that. Thank you, Heidi, for asking the question.
What's that like? I mean, I'm the youngest of three, and when you become a dad, what is that like? I mean, you just literally do you just dive in and do you think about it, or you? Because I'm older now, I still think about having children. I'm not sure, but I mean, you were in your 20s when you had your first son, right?
I was what?
In your 20s when you
Oh
had
yeah,
Steven?
yeah,
And
yeah.
how does
It's
that?
it's it's a it's just an absolute it's a miracle that you go through 9 months of pregnancy, and then all of a sudden you get a child, and then you just put your life on hold for 18 years, and then you can start up again.
But I mean, not even, right? I mean, you never stop worrying about us, right? Even now, you worry about
Oh
us,
right,
right?
yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's part of you. It's like yeah.
That's incredible to me. I mean, I think that's been one of my hesitations is like literally your life changes forever and you never are not worried about your children or thinking about them or even now that we're all grown.
Oh yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah. Ah, and then they turn around and call you a pervert. That wasn't very nice of me. All
Well, it
right.
must have surprised me because I must have gone inside and told mom. So
Yes.
she remembers the story.
She remembers well. If anyone remembers anything, I mean, gosh, mom has all the stories. That and do you remember? I won't use language. I try to keep this podcast clean. But do you remember? Mom was having a bad day. She was in the kitchen cooking or cutting potatoes, whatever she was doing. Raising the kids, the whole thing. And she just, I don't know. She slipped. She did something, and she just screamed, F F F, the F word, and just didn't know anyone was in the kitchen. And I happened to be behind her as a little kid. And I said to her, I'm telling Dad. Because she cursed. Oh, boy. All right. Let's.
Another look into raising kids. I remember one day you were still a baby, and Stephen and Paul were around, and I came home from work one day, and all your toys that you used to play with were in the driveway, so I couldn't put the car in the driveway.
Right.
And so I got out of the car and moved all the things, put the car in the driveway, and I didn't see you guys at all. And I came in the house, and you were screaming. You had a dirty diaper or something, and Paul and Stephen were hungry, and they were screaming. And I said, "What?" And the place was a mess. And I said, "Where's Mom?" And they said, "Mom is upstairs in bed." And I thought, "Oh my God, she's sick. What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, okay, guys, let me see. I'm going to go upstairs." So I went upstairs and I opened the bedroom door, and Mom was sitting in bed reading a book with a box of chocolates sitting there, and she was eating chocolate. And I said, "Elle, are you okay?" She said, "I'm fine." I said, "Well, what's going on? The kids are dirty. They're screaming. They're hungry. The place is a wreck." And she said, "Well, you know how you come home every day from work and you say, 'Hi, hon, what did you do today?'" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, today I didn't do it."
That's great.
I've never used that expression again. I've never asked.
I love it. I love. And you guys, I mean, you lived in terms of gosh, interesting places. You got married, and where'd you first live? Pasadena,
No, in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so you got married, and you had a really cool car, right? A convertible.
well, yeah, a Triumph TR3. Yeah,
Okay. And so the first you got married and the first place you lived, it was your job that kept moving you around, right?
right. It was a
Oh,
little sports car. It had a little trunk, and everything we owned fit into the car.
is that right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you moved, how long did you live in Fort Lauderdale?
We lived in Fort Lauderdale probably about a year, maybe a little more, and then we moved to California, and everything we owned got in the car. We just
You drove across
traveled
country?
traveled across country on Route 66, good old Route 66,
Ah, yeah.
and I'll tell you a funny story. I just to this day I don't believe it. The first we left Fort Lauderdale, and we drove as far as we went through the Panhandle of Florida, and then there's a little sliver of Alabama that comes down to the coast.
Oh,
So
really?
we
Okay.
decided to stay in I don't know if at that time it was a Holiday Inn. I'm not quite sure what it was. Um, we went in, we got a room for the night, and then we went down the next morning. We'd have breakfast, and then we just hit the road again. And we went down for breakfast, and the woman waitress brought us over the menu and started to explain to us what was on the menu. And neither Mom nor I understood one word that she was saying.
Because the accent.
Not one word. Yeah, with the first time with a real heavy Southern accent, and we wound up pointing to things on the menu: bacon, egg.
Grits, I bet.
Everything came with grits. I hated grits. We lived in South. Every time I would order something, I would say no grits, and grits would come.
It didn't matter.
It
Well,
just
and that's got to be for you guys an experience because you and Mom were both born and raised in the Bronx, New York City, and we're
yeah,
talking, we're talking the 40s and the 50s, right? I mean, the
yeah.
cars and the gangs and kind of like the West Side Story. Am I romanticizing it or?
No, West Side Story is it was it. It's where Lincoln Center is today, but the West Side. But the Bronx was was no better.
Yeah,
And I guess back in those days, my one of my good friends actually was. I think he was probably maybe certainly was the most infamous killing, but he was shot by that guy they called the Umbrella Man in those days. All these guys had names,
the
and
Umbrella Man.
I think that was his name, the Umbrella Man. Yeah,
Was it
and
who was it? Was that a like a criminal or was that a who was the Umbrella Man?
no, there were gangs, so it was a gang, and they got into some kind of a dispute, and this guy had a gun, and he pulled it out, and he
Wow,
shot my, and he died. And he just boom, shot him dead.
wow.
So yeah, it was interesting.
And you and Mom, you grew up on the same block?
No, same project, but a different block. But there
Okay.
was there was one place like they would have an area with benches where people could sit, and so the and they also in those days they had a little a room that they used for dancing on a Friday night, I believe it was. They would play music, and teenagers would get together and dance. So we met in that circle of friends.
Okay, that's how how old were you when you met Mom?
But I guess I was in high school,
Okay.
when allowed to go out and to be out in the neighborhood. I was in high school, and yeah, and then but we never really started dating until Mom moved away. She moved to Haverstraw, and yeah, we started dating then. I guess I was pretty far. I must have been out of college because I had to have a car to get her, so I was probably out of college. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Meanwhile, the girlfriend before her, if I recall, didn't her parents own a pizza place?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh yeah.
So the end of every date, you used to go for free pizza?
Yeah. Well, we had no money, so it was wonderful.
I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, yeah. Perfect. her father was the cook, and her mother was the waitress, and our dates were just sitting on the bench. In
That bench is very popular, huh?
yeah, till it was time to walk down and get a pizza.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, times have certainly changed, but I'm out of money myself, so I think sitting on a bench is probably my next date with Kate. We're gonna go to another question. This is Jackie, who I believe you know. Jackie wants to know, how did you fix the bed when you jimmied the legs with books? So this is a great story.
Oh, gee,
Yeah.
you should tell the story first about
Yeah.
how
Well,
the bed.
Steven tells it better. But yes, for our listeners who don't know what we're talking about here, this is Steven has been on the podcast a few times, and you guys went out on a date night, you and mom, and the three boys were home alone. And we had a game that we used to love to play. That you had a big, wonderful bed in your bedroom. And when you guys would leave, we would play, I think we called it goal line stance. I don't remember what we called it, but basically, we would start, one person would start down the hall, like me. I was the smallest. And we pretend that we were playing football. And then my two bigger brothers would be on your bed waiting to just pummel me. I would come sprinting down the hallway into the bedroom and just dive. And then the two big brothers would just destroy me with pillows and pummel me. And so you guys were out on a date night. And I always remember, I always loved when you guys went on date nights because mom wore Shalimar, and that was always my favorite. Every time I smelled that, I knew that you guys were in a good mood because I could smell Shalimar, and I'd say, oh, they're going somewhere. And then, of course, we would terrorize the house. Um, Anyway, we come running down. I come running down. The two other boys jump on top of me, and the entire bed just buckles. The whole thing just it just crumbles, and one of the legs of the bed shot out and hit the wall. I mean, with the whole thing. And your three brilliant sons that you raised decided we could prop it up with books, and simply no one would ever notice that the bed was broken if we propped it up with books. So why don't you take over the story from there and tell me your experience?
I guess when we came home, you guys were just uncharacteristically in bed and very quiet. And we didn't think much of it, a little bit unusual, but yeah, we went to bed, and I don't know, during the night, I think it was on mom's side of the bed. All of a sudden, the books gave way and the bed collapsed on her side and she rolled out.
When did it get addressed? Did you say something to us the next day? How did it come up?
I have a feeling, since mom's the one that rolled out of bed, she was the one who said something. My job was fixing the bed and getting a new bed, actually, because you broke the leg off the bed.
Oh my goodness. We did. We snapped that thing right off. I remember
Yeah,
that.
you did. Yeah.
Oh gosh almighty. Well, having done it and having looked back, would you do it again? Would you have all three of us?
Oh, I have to say yes, because mom would kill me if I didn't say yes.
All right, we're gonna ask. Ken has a question, and Ken wants to know why you. And I don't even know what this means, but Ken wants to know why you only eat hot dogs once a year. I think you and I both know who Ken is, a friend of Steven's, but I don't. I don't. I assume that question means something to you.
Um, yeah, no, usually hot dogs on July 4th. And it's kind of like, like Christmas. You look forward to it. And hot dogs aren't good for you, so you shouldn't eat them on a regular basis. Uh, so when July 4th, starts to roll around, you start stocking up on sauerkraut and different kinds of sauerkraut each year, and some relish, and uh, your hot dogs and your hot dog rolls, and you don't feel one bit guilty on July 4th. You just enjoy it. It's a celebration. It's absolutely. It's just like, as I said, it's like Christmas. It's something you can look forward to and enjoy with no guilt at all.
I love that. I did know that about you. And yeah, okay. So I'll start having a hot dog on July 4th too. I think the only time I ever have them is once in a while, like when you and I go to a Yankee game, which I hope we'll be able to do at some point in the next year. Um, and yeah, well, I like, I've always admired that about you. You have these great traditions. You have these great, like, little things that you don't even tell anyone, but you just do them and they're important to you. Um, port wine on Christmas Eve, and um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think probably weird is probably better description.
Well, whatever the word is. You've been my best guest. I've been doing this for over 2 years, this podcast, and you've been my favorite guest, and I'm pretty sure everyone's going to agree with that. Is there anything you want to tell everyone before we go?
Um, I can't think of anything. You've been, all kidding aside, kids and are just wonderful. And the best part is that they're even more wonderful when they grow up. So they would be even more wonderful if they grew up and had kids of their own. But that's
I have to go in the other room and talk to Kate about that. I love you, Pops.
well, the feeling is mutual.
I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to Greetings from Somerville, everyone.